Hey there, Board Game Brody here with Let's Table It, where we get games like Get Bit by Greater Than Games to the Table. This is a bluffing card game where you are trying to swim in front of all the other players so that you don't get bit from the shark following closely behind. This game design came out in 2007 and has been published by many different publishers. The rights have now been sent to Greater Than Games, where they make each swimmer a scuba diver toy in a bathtub with a rubber shark following behind them, trying to eat their limbs. Remember, you don't have to swim faster than the shark, you just have to swim faster than your friends. Each player takes an action figure and its matching cards of the same color. You can choose to be yellow, purple, pink, orange, blue, or green. I always play green, so I have all those pieces right here. Depending on how many players are playing in the game, you will not use all the cards possibly. The game plays for 2 to 6 players. If playing with 5 or less, you will remove the number 7 card from each player's hand of cards. If playing with 4 or less players, you will remove the number 6 card from each player's deck. All the action figures are randomly placed in a line like they are swimming one by one, and the shark is placed at the end of the line just behind the feet of the last action figure. The game is played in 3 phases. First, you choose cards. Then you move your action figures, and then in the last phase, you get bit. Choose cards. When choosing cards, each player will choose a card from their hand of cards and place it face down in front of them on the table. This card should be placed separate from the other previously placed out cards. After all players have selected their card for that round, from their hands of cards, they are all turned over face up at the same time. Move action figures. All players will then compare their cards, and if any players have the same number as another player, both of those players' figures do not move this round. Then the other players move their figures, starting with the player who played the lowest untied number. Then the player who played the next lowest untied number moves their action figure to the front of the line, and so on until everyone who played untied numbers has moved, always moving to the front of the line. In other versions, you move the number of spaces on the card, but in this version, you will move to the front regardless of the number shown, following the lowest to highest of all untied cards. Get bit. After all players have moved their action figures, or not because of a tie, the action figure located in the back of the line gets bit by the shark. That player chooses to remove an arm or a leg of their figure and moves their action figure to the front of the line afterwards. That player, in addition, gets to pick up all their cards on the table in front of them and place them back in their hand. Now, the get bit step is skipped in the first round of play, but it will be played in all others after. Now, whenever an action figure loses its last limb, that action figure is then devoured by the shark, eliminating them from the game. If a player continues playing and has only 1 card remaining in their hand, then they will pick up all the cards on the table in front of them and put it back into their hand to continue playing. Otherwise, the cards you have played stay out in the order that you play them in front of each of the players. This allows all other players now to inspect the numbers that have already been played by each of the players. These steps are repeated until there are 2 action figures left in the game. And at that point, the shark will devour the action figure in the back, regardless of how many limbs they have. The player now with their action figure in the front for that last round escapes the shark and wins the game. Now, there are a couple different ways to play the game. There is the variation, the 3 action figure players. If you want to play the game with 3 players, then you will set up the game like a 4-player game, except the 4th player becomes an automatic player who gets a hand of cards. They're shuffled, and they will too play out cards each round. Whenever they pick up their cards as a result of getting bit or having only 1 card left in their hand, then their cards are shuffled randomly together, placed back in a stack, and they will continue to use them, coming out randomly. Another variant, the 2 action figure players. If you want to play the game with only 2 players, or you like this variant and want to play it with 3 players, you will then pick 2 action figures each, and you'll play the game as normal, except now you know some information from the card that you choose from one of your characters to the other. As soon as a player has a figure eliminated from the game, then their other figure is also eliminated, and the player left alive wins the game. Memory game variant. Now you can play the game normally, except instead of keeping the cards placed out face up, now during the Get Bit phase, all previously played out cards are turned over face down, causing you to remember what's out there. Lastly, the last variant is you can play with someone playing as the shark. The player who is playing as the shark will take the shark cards into their hand. They will use them similar to how the other players use them, and they will also receive 1 hunger token for each swimmer in the game. The game is then set up as normal, including the shark not biting in the first round. The swimmer players will play as normal, and the shark player will play 1 card from their hand during the choose card phase as well, and it will be revealed at the same time as the other players. After all swimmers have moved, then the shark bites whoever is in the back of the line, and they will remove the limb corresponding to the card that they played out. This could be the right leg or the left leg or the right arm or the left arm. That limb is removed from that swimmer and the swimmer jumps to the front of the line. If the swimmer already doesn't have that limb matching the card, then it counts as a miss for the shark player. Or the shark player can play out their exhaustion card, where if there are any ties during that round, then those swimmers will have to discard those cards that they played and not have them for the rest of the game. If there are no tied cards out there, then this counts as a miss for the shark. Lastly, the any limb card will cause the players this round with ties to lose any limb of the swimmer's choice. They will move their swimmer to the front of the line, pick up their cards, and keep on playing as usual. If there are no tied cards, then it counts as a miss for the shark. Like the swimmers, if the shark player is ever down to just 1 card, then they pick up all their cards and keep on playing. Now, for each miss during the game, the shark loses 1 hunger token and picks up their cards as well. The swimmer in the back does not lose a limb, they do not move, and they do not pick up their cards. If the shark loses their last hunger token, the game ends and the swimmer with the most limbs wins. If there's a tie, then the swimmer with the most limbs and furthest to the front wins. If the game ever comes down to just 1 swimmer and the shark, then the game ends and the shark wins. And, well, that's Get Bit. We have really enjoyed this game with its different variations. There's a ton of luck in the game, and sometimes when, there are more cards out on the table, it does get you to, some strategic choices in playing certain numbers. You really got 4 chances with your 4 limbs to stay ahead of someone else, whoever that might be, so that you don't get bit. Players are trying to make it to the end of the game, being one of the last 2 different swimmers, but then the limbs at that point don't matter anymore. It comes down to sudden death, and the player furthest behind loses the game, and the player who swims the furthest wins the game. Now, we really like the variant of playing 2 different swimmers each because it, gives you reason to play out certain numbers each round and a little bit more information, but it's also usually me and the 2 kids playing the game, so it works out very well when we play this variant. Now, I also like the change of picking up your cards when you lose a limb, but also getting to move to the front of the line. So, when you do bad, then you will, get an opportunity to do good next round because, you have all your cards back at your disposal and you'll be able to be at the front of the line, less likely to get bit again. Players will try to study other players and try to figure out, what number that they're going to play for that round. And you'll try to sometimes play the same card so that, you both don't move. If they are behind you, then they're going to get bit before you do. Or you want to play a card that no one else does, preferably a large number as you will move in ascending order. This is a fun, stay alive game with a fun theme of staying in front of the shark and not getting bit. Again, this is Brody with Let's Table It, where we get these games to the table. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We are new and working hard to bring to you videos like this one so you know if these games are ones that you want to get to your own table.